So we're going to talk just class presentation tools and tips, and talk about some of the elements that go along with that. So let's jump in and see on from objective standpoint, we're talking about content, sharing, different ways to share, screen sharing, and then different tools along the way. There's different ways to look at this, and I'll get a feel for where all of you are and how you're using this to kind of see how we tailor this. I try not to just force what I've got down everybody's throat. I want it to be applicable to where they are and what they're working on. So that's kind of one of the things I do. So as we kick off here, if you could share kind of how you use presentation, or how this class could help you, hopefully, or what you have coming up. I've had people that, are preparing to be GetSetUp guides or discussion group leaders, or people preparing to do big presentations for work or school, people who lead kind of community organizations and they have to present things, and they were trying to pick up some tips on that. So Joe, I'll let you go first. Tell us kind of how this could best help you.
I have two things in mind, one of which I'm a member of my local group, Toastmasters, and I have to get up there and do some public speaking. Now, they go so far with that, because that's kind of a learning experience. You get up there, you make a speech, you do a joke, you do something else. People will send you little love letters telling you what you did right. They never do really say, get out of here. But, they tell you, speak up, space it out a little bit, do something a little bit different and whatnot, right? So I want to get some tips for that. Now, the other side of this, and this is even more ulterior for me, is I also lead a session here on GetSetUp, and I really every chance I get to learn more about how to speak, or from whatever source, is a learning opportunity for me.
Good.
So
Good.
So like yesterday,
Right.
like last night, I did my session. I felt like it's a comedy session. I felt I bombed terribly, but everybody told me you were great. I don't know what I did that was so good, but
You were probably being yourself, and that's the best version of you to do, and people like that. So that's good. Okay, good. All right, Sharon, how about you?
I give presentations at work to different
Yes.
area agencies, so I'd like tips for that.
Okay. Are they in real life, or are they online?
They're in real life,
Okay.
but I'm certainly sure I could use the online as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Will.
Sure. I do presentations for a education group that provides education for people over the age of 50. We do two formats. We do webinars, and we do Zoom meetings like we're in today. And I've had everything under the sun thrown at me, from Google Slides to things I've never heard of that people put their presentations on, to, of course, PowerPoints. And when I do my own classes, I'm always, as Joe says, I'm always looking for a better way, not so much a better way, but for a way to get better.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Good. Good. Christina.
Well, I'm in the stage of selling house, and we are going to move to Boston for me, and I'm kind of curious with a lot of new things. So, and I want to learn something maybe in the future, help me and for different environment and different opportunity.
Okay. Good. Where do you live now?
I'm living in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
I'm going to move to the Boston. So, and so far I'm every day, and we're dealing with handyman, and also for the landscaper helper, but they are very nice. And so, I don't need to do any presentation. So, and, but, you never know, maybe things change. I'm go have a different environment, maybe have
Yeah.
better chance. Yeah.
Okay. Good. See, Wanda has joined us. Glad you're here, Wanda. We're just letting everybody share kind of how this class could best help them with what they're working on. You there,
Thank
Wanda?
you.
Hey, Wanda.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. I just joined
Okay.
in. I am
Sure.
here in Houston where Christina is leaving, but
Wanda, hi.
I enjoy your move, a new opportunity. Oh, I've been on GetSetUp since it first started, taken many, many classes, but I have not taken this one. So I'm
Okay.
interested in presentation.
Right.
Different things and different ways to present.
Yes.
I'm not presenting here at GetSetUp, but I've done classes other places. I teach Bible class, so I'm just interested in learning how to make it,
Okay.
how to
Very
do
good.
things on Zoom, because we are having classes on Zoom from
Yeah.
church still.
Right. Okay. Good. Welcome, Wen.
I just
Hey, Wen.
walked in. I told you I had some
Okay.
car issue. That's resolved.
Good, good.
So, no, it's resolved. So I'm sorry. What was the question? What was
The question is,
goal?
yeah, how can this class best help you? I mean, how do you use presentations in your life?
I do some volunteer work. I'm hoping to maybe get some kind of job. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet, but I don't have to give like corporate presentations, that type of thing, but I do volunteer work. I am on like a committee, and
Okay.
that's usually like so I think communication is always something that's very, very important, whether it's oral, written, or
Yeah.
presentation skills. And I actually am in the middle of reading, just a side note, I'm listening to an audiobook by Michelle Obama. And she talks about the importance that she learned from her parents of being able to communicate well.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Good.
Thank you.
I have one last thing, Kevin, and that's
Yeah,
kind of to Joe, and that's the fact that we did a presentation. We had 6 lectures last spring on graphic novels. And so none of the presenters, I mean, they're very good authors, but they weren't professional presenters. And the first one I was the moderator for, I introduced, and I had to field questions at the end. It was so bad, in my opinion, that I never wanted to do it again. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and it was horrible. And then everybody that I talked to, that was in the audience said, "Oh, you did such a good job. Everything went, so you just can't tell, Joe."
Yeah. I get that's always a better situation than feeling like you hit it out in the park and then people are telling you that was awful. The opposite would really be painful. We misjudge ourselves on that. Yeah. But we're often our hardest critics of ourselves. That's for sure. So it's a good sign when you get good feedback afterwards that you did a good job. I think that's a good vote of confidence in that sense. So good. All right. Well, let's jump in here. You guys all hit on some different things and go in different directions. When I think about the content,
Kevin, you still got a little echo coming out of one of your mics.
You still hear it? Okay, yeah, I hear something too.
That's tinny.
Yeah. Oh, not that way. Go this way. Is that better?
Yes.
Better now. Okay. Yeah. It's my microphone and my speakers are fighting each other for some reason. Okay. Content wise, I've got some of you wanted to, I'm tempted to kind of go in a different direction, but some of you are talking about making the connection with the people. I have a session that I do on connecting with the audience and that kind of thing, which is really important. And one of the things that I hit on in there is that we focus so much on content. Typically, we think the whole meeting is about the content. And we get so wrapped around the content. So we got to have the slides. We got to get through our material. We got to, really do all this stuff. and we lose the connection with the audience, and that becomes the biggest mistake. And then you become hard to listen to, or people don't connect with you. You're not relatable because you don't have that connection. And so for me, I think, especially when you're doing it online, when you don't have the privilege of being in the same room with somebody, it's even more important that you make that connection, because there's already a built-in disconnect because we're virtual, not in real life. When you're in the same room or the same auditorium, it's a little bit easier to, shake a hand or put an arm on, put your arm on somebody's arm or something like that, and kind of touch them and make them feel like they're noticed and real. And so the big piece, I think, is making people be connected to what you're doing. And I try to do that in every class. Now, if you have a really large audience, that's really hard to do, whether it's in real life or a webinar. And if you got 100 people, you really just can't do that to everybody. But you do the best to be with some. And in these smaller classes, I like them because I can call in everybody's name and we can all let you talk and all of that. So it's really important that, I recognize you and I let you have a chance to speak, because not everybody wants to. I mean, I like it when people have their cameras on and prefer they do, but some don't. That's fine. That's their choice. But I'm able to reach out to them and give them the opportunity to be as engaged as they want to be. And I think that that's important, because it's so important that people connect with you as a person, as the presenter, before they really try to sell them on your content, right? And when I was younger, I was all about, I got to get to my content. I got to, I prepared this stuff. I got to share this stuff. We're going to get through this stuff. Everybody be quiet. I got more material than I got time. So we're going to plow through all this stuff, and you guys just sit here and take it. And as I've done it more and more, it's really, the content is the excuse to get together and connect. And then you need to have something worth saying, but building that rapport with them is so important. Okay, so that's not part of this topic, but it's part of this topic, but it's not part of this class. And I wanted to hit on that because some of you were getting into that area. So, how do you do that? You got icebreakers, you ask questions, you give people the opportunity to give feedback. And then, the biggest fear you typically have is that somebody's not going to answer, right? That's you feel like you're going to put someone in a spot, because especially if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to be asked questions, you typically won't ask people questions. You're so empathetic to everybody else. You're like, I don't want to ask them. That's putting them out. But I don't mind if somebody asks me a question. I can reserve the right not to answer, but I don't mind if somebody asks me a question. So asking somebody an easy question is something that's not right or wrong. It's not controversial. It's like, what do you think about this? It's what they think about it. It's not something they're going to feel embarrassed about. That helps. The other thing is building a rapport at the beginning of your event. As you get there early and as people kind of come in, whether it's online or in real life, you get a chance to kind of reach out to somebody. Like Joe and Sharon and Will were on first. And so I was talking to them a little bit. And I know most of you from being in other classes, but you realize who's going to be receptive to you as you start to reach out to people. Some people are going to be more receptive. And when you do that as class starts or before class starts or the meeting starts, you can call on those people in the meeting during the presentation, because they're already a friendly person and you've already built a little rapport. So you can ask them a question. So if you're afraid to kind of put a question out there and sit through the crickets of no answer for a while, you can say, hey, Joe, what do you think about this? Or Will, what do you think about this? Or Sharon, we were talking before, what do you think about this? And I know, knowing because you built a little rapport at the beginning, you're going to get an answer from them. And then that opens up the door for other people to chime in. Right. So that's one of the things to kind of do that. The last thing I want it to be is a monologue. I really want what I'm doing to be a conversation. And you got to know your style, right? I mean, if your style is monologue, then you do the monologue thing. But I think more people would like to be part of what's going on. That's what's in this age where there's so much content I can get online now. I'm looking for ways to speed up what I'm listening to or watching. I don't know if you know this, but on YouTube, you can actually change the speed at which you're watching and listening there even. And I do that to get to more content, because some people just take forever to say something. And I don't want to, it's like a book, right? I say a 200-page book has about 30 pages of real good stuff in it. The other 170 pages, you have to kind of slug through a lot of times to get to it. So how do you speed up that process to get in there? All right, now that's all about kind of the relational, being personal with people up front and doing that. to get along. And one more thing before we get into this slide. Being yourself is so important. I mentioned that in Joe's situation there. One of the big mistakes we make is we try to be like somebody else, or we try to present like somebody else, or we try to be what somebody else wants us to be. And that's really a recipe for disaster for us, because people pick up on that disingenuousness of it. And people really want to know that this person believes what they're talking about. It's their material. That's why it's hard for me to teach somebody else's material. Like if they say, hey, will you teach this? I'm like, well, I'll teach that topic, but I might teach it different. I want to teach it in the style that's familiar with me. Because if I'm just kind of reading, slides to people, nobody wants that. That is just brutal. So if you can make, the more you can personalize it to be your own style and your own way, I think that's good. The genuineness kind of plays through. All right, any comments on any of that before we go on to the next piece here?
Kevin, can you comment on someone's style? Because I don't fully understand that. Somebody in my family was getting ready for a Toastmaster type of presentation, and the other person said, I can't tell you what prompts to use for yourself, because that has to be like what's personal to. And I think so. Now you're talking about style, and I guess can you comment a little bit about that?
Are you understand
presentation using your own style? What is that, a mode of communication, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So you guys have taken quite a few classes at GetSetUp, and all the guides are a little bit different. They have their own style of, now, we're asked to kind of start the same way. So we have our cover slide and here's our objectives, and then we get into our notes, and we're supposed to wrap up the same way. But in the middle, it's very different, right? Some people are on screen share the whole time. Some people are more some people take more breaks and have discussion with people, have a conversation like we're having here. Other people, it's just a data download. It's just a fire hose of information. Like they're trying to teach you a college class, and you're going to be tested on it next week, right? So not right or wrong. They're just different styles. They're just different ways of doing it. Some people use humor. Some people would never use humor, right? Some people will laugh at themselves. Some people are just really serious. Some use a lot of illustrations. Some use a lot of slides. Some people have a lot of words on their slides. Those are all the different styles, right? And so that's the differences in it. And then the other part, and then I more and more try to figure out who's in my class, and try to tailor it towards them. I'm doing more of that than I'm trying to just say, here, let me just teach the same thing over and over again, because that's kind of indifferent to who your audience is, which is rule number one: know your audience. So those are styles, and I think you can look at people you watch, you listen to. One of the things that naturally happens is you end up teaching, training, leading like you like to be taught, led, and trained. We tend to do that, right? We tend to like, okay, I like when somebody does that, so that's what I'm going to do too. And that's not being disingenuous. That's like, no, that's kind of the style I prefer. So I want to, use that. I'm comfortable with that. As a learner, I'm comfortable with that. So as a leader, I want to be comfortable with that. So that's what I mean by, does that help in the sense of style?
That does make sense. And okay. Like, for example, I'm a very visual person. So I start like zoning out if someone just talks and they don't have any kind of visual. I don't necessarily have to see PowerPoint slides, but for myself.
Yeah. You like when I change my views and we have different views, right?
Yeah. Like sometimes it's hard to pay attention when there's like, I'm not saying anything about yours, but if someone just gives all these slides, it starts getting to be, right. I don't know what it is. I can't describe it.
Yes. A little slide fatigue. Yeah.
It becomes too technical or monotonous.
Right. Yeah.
Unless it's like mixed up or something, mixing it up a bit. Yeah. Thank you.
Like something like that. Right. So I think on one of my big things on online presenting is you should always still see the person talking. And I don't really like how Zoom throws you off in the corner when you share screen. I don't really like that at all. So I don't use it. You never see me really use that. I don't use that feature at all. You see, if some of you in my other classes, or I've got another tool where I can like take over the screen, I can be big on top of the screen. I use that sometimes. And I started using this one a little bit. That keeps me, because I've been using this one more real lately because it's real. I don't have a fake background, and sometimes the background's a little wonky and you feel like a ghost floating in and out, and your head disappears or morphs,
Oh.
and that gets a little distracting sometimes too when you're kind of
What
a ghost.
feature is this that you're using? What is that called?
Yeah,
that
I'll get
you're
in.
using?
I'll get into this in a minute.
Okay.
As we get in, because this gets into kind of how people experience, right? So connect with your audience and then create a memorable experience for them. That's really what I'm always trying to do. I'm always about creating moments or experiences for people. That's really what I want, because I like that. I like somebody to be memorable in that. I don't want to be just like everybody else. I mean, I do my classes different. I use different tools than other guides do, and I'm happy to share all of them with them. I'm not trying to be proprietary or anything. It's all available out there. You just got to be able to learn how to use it and be comfortable using it. So this is what I've been using in the last week or so. I've just started using this kind of thing. Okay, so let's jump into this content piece. When you're thinking about content for what you're creating, this is kind of the process I go through of creating a great presentation. I know my topic, whatever it's going to be. This is assuming somebody's not just saying, hey, say this, right? This is where you've got to present something, so you got to go gather. So I collect far more information than I really have time or need to share, but I want to collect as much as I can to know what I'm working with. Because what I'm going towards is one of the greatest lessons I learned in grad school. I had a professor say, you can teach anything in a short amount of time if you leave enough out. And it sounds kind of funny, but there's a lot of truth to that. And it's really about how do you synthesize a lot of information down to the essential and then make that worthwhile sharing. So you're not, so you're making it worthwhile for them in the content, right? That's the presenter or the guide's big role, is like, how do you synthesize this down so you share the important stuff? So collect more than you need. And then there's a process of grouping it and then formatting it. And what a lot of people try to do is they start formatting right away. So they open up a PowerPoint slide or a Google slide and they start making slides. And they start there and they haven't really kind of thought about what they're going to say. They're just kind of do it on the fly. And that's not really a good way to do it. Okay, so collecting, right? This is brainstorming, researching. Think about how this all fits together as a story. How are you going to kind of tell a story with this information? That's a big presentation tool tip right there, is think of yourself as a storyteller. How can you take whatever it is you're presenting, whether it's, it's the homeowners association monthly review, what's the story we can tell with this, to a Bible study, to something at work that you have to present. Tell a story with what you're presenting. People like stories. What's the story, Kevin? A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? There's a beginning that gets your attention. There's some kind of problem you want to solve. You share the middle of how do you resolve that, and at the end you wrap it up, and it's all brought back together. And the story ends, right? And people like stories that don't prefer to be a part of tragedies. They tend to rather be a part of rescue, comeback, winners, championship stories, not the tragedies. So make it a winning story. I do this over time. Give yourself time to kind of put together your material over time, because in one setting, if you rush it down into one setting, you're kind of forcing yourself to kind of do all this at once. Do it over time. Collect stuff over time. I gather content, put it into Notion or Evernote. I have different places I put stuff, and then I'm able to kind of go back and review it and think about how it tells a story. And then I start trimming. Like, okay, what's the fat? How do I cut the fat off of this? What's the essential part? Okay, so that's the collecting stage. Then grouping it is starting to organize it. How does this come together in a presentable way? How do you put this into bite-sized pieces? Because you can't share, nobody wants, the 10 ways to lose 10 pounds in 10 days. That sounds like a nice thing, but that's just a whole lot of information to kind of process in one setting. Now, if you're doing an all-day seminar, great. But, in a short period of time, really start thinking about how does this group into buckets, right? If it's a really big topic, like what are the 3 big categories I can break this into? And then inside of that, you can start making subpoints if necessary. But think, big picture, small, what are the big buckets, and then go down from there. Like, what are the 3 big things I want people to know as it relates to this? And then bring it down. Okay. When I was younger, I would make too many long lists. I got, I could alliterate it. But it just after like number 5, people are like glossed over. They're just like, oh my gosh, this is just I'll write it down, but I'm not remembering any of this. It's just way too much. I can't process all this. It's just too much. It's turned into a book. It's not really that engaging anymore. Okay, so that's grouping. And then finally you get to the formatting part. You get into, okay, how do I illustrate this story? Because you don't want to just tell them, you also want to show them, right? It's show and tell. It's tell and show. It's both of that. And that's what visuals, those of you that are visual, very visual, really, the visual part really helps support your story, right? It's like the difference between a book and a movie. You just visually, you have more senses engaged if you're watching a movie and you got the sound and the visual and all of that. The content's basically the same, but it's more stimulating when you have more senses involved. So you go then finally to the formatting part and what tools you use. You know, I create all my slides in Google Slides. It's enough. I love Keynote. Keynote's a great program, but Google's just so easy because I can always get to those slides from anywhere because it's in the cloud. I used PowerPoint for a really long time, but I got tired of Microsoft. I felt like Microsoft products are really bloated. They have their menus and screens are way too heavy and they just try to do too many things. And it's just, I don't need all the transitions and all that stuff going on. It's just, I have another rule. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You ever see somebody who does like their very first PowerPoint presentation and everything's flying around and things are moving and spinning and, you know, it's just, it's like a, I mean, you need to take medicine after you watch it because you've gotten so much stimulation. It's not necessary. Just you're the show, you're the person presenting it, and your slides and your illustrations are to accentuate what you're talking about. So make sure you stay kind of in the, you don't want them just on the slides all the time. Okay, fonts, colors. I'm big on contrast. People make really ugly slides. It's really hard to read sometimes. They put too much on it. The fonts are hard to read. They like the handwritten fonts that are kind of cute, but you can't read them. So big legible fonts with lots of contrast, meaning, you know, a white, like this is a white font on a blue background or a yellow font on a blue background. If I put a black font on the blue background, you wouldn't see it. It'd be illegible. You wouldn't be able to read it. Okay. I love using images, icons, backgrounds, and then be consistent. Make sure your slides have consistent. Everything shouldn't look different. Shouldn't all be different. So even as a GetSetUp guide, I have to use this format of a GetSetUp slide. So this is a slide I made for this class. Actually, the first time I taught it, I kind of built the class as I do this stuff. I was kind of showing them how to do it. And I finished with the slides and I said, okay, I just don't want to throw the GetSetUp logo on there. So I inset that slide inside a GetSetUp themed slide. So it meets the requirements of GetSetUp design. So, and then I put a shadow behind it. So it gives it some dimension. So that's what I did. But you notice that, you know, this slide, the title is on the left is vertical. It's yellow, just like this one. The people are, the background's the same. The little icon on the top right is the same. The fonts are the same color, the same size. Right. So it's all, and you notice how I broke it up, right? I said, here's the three parts to the great presentation: collecting, grouping, formatting from the content standpoint. And then I went into subpoints, 4 subpoints, 4 subpoints, 5 subpoints. Okay. Right. It's all, everybody break it down into very digestible pieces. Don't try to give too much at one time. That if you put too much on there, then you have to stay in that slide a long time. People get lost. They get bored. And our attention spans are getting less and less, so we have to give them things in small bites. So give them small bites and go. All right, any questions on those? So this is the content part of kind of presenting that I got into. I don't go, I'm not going too deep into this right here, but I've done in class, I've taken somebody who was presenting something and I had them send it to me and I did some work on it in class to show how I would clean it up and how I would revise it to make it look a little better. So that's something I enjoy doing.
I'm writing all of this down. I'm stealing some of your ideas while I'm going along here.
Yeah.
I love your thing about the presentable, the digestible pieces. I think that really sunk in. That's really a good idea. I'm trying to do I'm trying to do like a 5-minute speech. I can't put in, you know, the the Battle Hymn of the Republic or what, a chapter of the Bible into 5 minutes, or whatever I'm going to be doing. So you have a good point there. And I like something else you said is if you're looking for audience participation earlier on, I would emphasize this, tell them less is more.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Pretend you're being stopped for making an illegal U-turn. I did this about 2 years ago, right? And I had a whole running soliloquy, but the cop's going to let me off on a warning, so I didn't even bother going into it. So less is more. Just tell what you really need to tell them and get out of there, because
That's
all
right.
they really want.
Yes. You're right. I mean, one of the downsides, you've seen people do this who speak a lot. They get real comfortable telling a bunch of stories, but they don't end up saying, they leave their topic, right? I mean,
I've done that.
Yeah. Just because they're comfortable talking and they like to hear themselves talk, they just go off on other subjects. So stay on topic, and less is more is definitely a good mantra.
Okay. One of the GetSetUp sessions I've done, if I can interrupt you for a minute, you look like you wanted a little bit of feedback. Anyway, one of the GetSetUp sessions that I was in, this must have been about 3 weeks ago, right? And the one lady that, if you've ever been on one of Norman's morning sessions, he interviews everybody as they're going along. And this one lady got off on a tangent. She was out there in left field so far, like you have to take a plane to get back, right? And one of the other participants to the addressed everybody, knock it off. We're not here for that.
Somebody said that.
Somebody said that, yes. So,
That's
okay,
great.
I'm sorry I interrupted, but you look like you wanted a little feedback at the moment. So, any opportunity I can to run my mouth, I do it.
No, that's great. That's great. So on your 5-minute talk, will you have slides for it as well?
No, these are just oral topics. These are just oral
Okay.
presentations. We don't have the room for like a slide. We
Yeah.
did it one time, but we don't have a good meeting room for that kind of stuff now. So
Okay.
they're basically, like a discussion on whether that downtown one-way street should be two-way, those kind of thing.
Okay. All right. So some people like to have a full-on script, right? And have it all written out because they have this fear that they're going to not be able to say it all. And I think, that's a good exercise to go through for a while until you build up your confidence. But I think what you want to do in the end is get to the place where you know your stuff, you know your content, and then you're able then to, I like to use the slides as my prompters. I don't have a whole script. I put enough time into kind of putting my content together to know what it is. And then I use my slide as, okay, that's when we're going to talk about these things. But I don't have the whole script on the slide, right? I can fill in what the slide's about. The slide should not have the script on it. It's just kind of the reminder for you. It's kind of your outline, if you will, to prompt you. So like in that example, if you could do slides in a 5-minute talk, and let's say you're going to do kind of an introduction and you're going to do a wrap up, and those are going to take about 30 seconds. So you've got about 4.5 minutes of content that you can talk. I might have three slides, let's say, really at that point, of what I wanted to cover in those 4 minutes. And each one would have about a minute and a half of me talking about them. And I would pop it up there and it would prompt me to talk about that. And then when I was done, I would go to the next slide and it would prompt me to talk about that. Without the ability to put up the slides, you could use your note cards and just kind of make each note card the equivalent of your slide. And you see it and it prompts you to talk about that for a little while. And it keeps you on that topic. And then you go to the next one. So having the script can hold you back too, because you tend to not be as genuine, right? You tend to be too rigid and you're trying to stick to what you're saying rather than a conversation more than when we're trying to read something, we miss out on a lot of the body language and a lot of the natural positive body language we can give out when we're just having a conversation, talking to somebody. So that's another way to think about your slides or your content, is to use them as your outline, use them as your discussion leading part so that you can go through them that way. All right. So let me talk about a few tools then we could hit in here. In addition to just making them, so you could use PowerPoint, Keynote, Google Slides. Sharon, what do you use to make your slides? When you present, what do you create them in?
Usually Google Slides.
Google Slides, okay, yeah. And Google Slides. I've made Google Slides sometimes and then saved them as a PDF and then shown it as a full screen PDF sometimes. Especially if you're sometimes this used to happen all the time with PowerPoint. You would create this PowerPoint slideshow on your computer. You'd put it on a disk drive, back we had disk drives or thumb drives, or you'd email it to somebody. They bring it up on their computer. They don't have the same fonts. They don't have all kinds of stuff, and it just comes out weird.
I have had that happen.
It's a really bad feeling if you don't have time to kind of use your computer or to. So what saving it as a PDF, you can do that in any of these apps. You can save them as a PDF, and that locks in all the graphics and the photos and all of that. It kind of makes a flat file of it. And you can open up a PDF with a free PDF reader, go full screen and share that. And obviously you don't have no transitions, but I don't use the transitions. They're flat. My slides are pretty flat. I don't want to overwhelm you with transitions. So that's one safe way to be able to have a backup kind of your slides if you're going to go somewhere else to present, especially they say, oh yeah, we got the whole setup, and you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, they don't have the cables to connect my computer. Now I got to give them my file, and my file is not going to read on their computer, and all those things. So that's it. All right. So what kind of tools can you use in the presentation? In real life, there's another program called Prezi. Have you ever heard of Prezi? Prezi is a interesting app, Prezi, and it allows you to move. You kind of lay this all out on a big canvas, and then it moves from scene to scene on there. So there's some animation a little bit as it goes from scene to scene. You've probably seen some of those before. There's another thing that I was doing in real life that was really nice. There's a program, I don't have this in these notes, but because some of you mentioned about presenting in real life, this really was a standout. Let me see if I've got it on this iPad. It is called, can't remember all the names of all the apps. I haven't used it in a while because I'm so much online right now. Oh, it's called Pop Boards, Popboardz. It's free, and let me see if I can. Yeah, so I use this quite a bit, and you can use it on your computer too. You don't have to use it on your iPad. Let me show you this. All right, so this is, it's showing part of it, but you basically, okay, here's an example. You've got these boards. Let me find one. It's got some, I haven't been on this in forever. Okay, let's take this one. So this is, and you can set this up on your computer too. But what's nice about it is it allows you to bounce around from different things really easily. So let's say you were set it up in a meeting room or on your computer, you had this set up to projector. Okay, your computer set up to projector, and you have this Popboard app running. And what you've done is you've put this has what I've got, I don't know, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I've got like 15 different tiles here. These are like tiles, and you can create the background, make it all. But when you click on one of the tiles, it opens up what's in there. So this was a PowerPoint. And when I'm done with that, I can close that and I can go to this one. This is a document. And you can put in here videos and slideshows and all kinds of different content. But rather than fumbling around on your computer to find it, it's all right here. And you can then just navigate through it, right? So here's a document, and you can show that to them. I don't know what this is, just another, oh, that's just another, what's this one? All right, so these are, a lot of those are the same, but you could have different content in these different boxes, and it allows you to quickly pull it up really, and it goes right to the screen, which is nice. So videos, because that's one of the things, if you're trying to show lots of different content, rather than baking it all into one PowerPoint or one slideshow, you can let them run separately this way, and I can bounce it. The other thing this lets me do is I don't have to go linear. So if I'm in a meeting and somebody says, oh, what about this? So, okay, and I click on that box and it opens up the content in there, and I could show it to them. So that's a neat little Popboardz, Popboards. Okay. All right. That's really helpful when you have quite a bit of different content. I did that a lot when I was doing like corporate training and is long, a long session and a lot of content. Because sometimes I wouldn't want to do the same order. I could jump around on the order that I was going to talk about something, and it was all there. Where in slideshow, you have to pretty much go linear or know what slide it is and then jump to it that way. But this way you can kind of jump around this way. All right, let's talk about some other tools. Obviously Zoom. I mean, I think Zoom's the best for the video part of it. I'm not a fan of the corporate, GoToMeeting, WebEx. I don't like those as much. They're too corporate. Zoom does a good job and they keep getting better for that. But I don't use all of their tools inside Zoom, but that's what I don't like Google Meet. I don't like that. I have trouble with that. Has me trouble. All right, these other three things, these are where I do some magical things though. That's where somebody asks, how are you doing what you're doing? I've used and works on PC and Mac both. They've got a free version and then a monthly version that costs about $8 a month. It's not very much. This is the one where you can make yourself large on top of the screen and move yourself around and jump around from slide to slide and have videos embedded, all that. It's a newer program. I used it a lot last year, and I was trying to push it to do more and more with multiple sources, and it started to give me a little bit of trouble. I'd crash on me. I got kicked out of a few classes. I lost Zoom and everything in a couple of classes. That's embarrassing. Where I've got to restart my whole computer, and I've got a new Mac M1 computer, so it's not a computer that's going to struggle. But that I was throwing too much at it with the laptop, the videos and the screen share, the desktop stuff, and the mobile devices and all of that. It was just too much for it at times. It would choke out. So I'm not against it. I think. Yeah.
I got into, you and I had talked about that in one other class.
Yeah.
And so I went up and I got into and played around with it. It wasn't all that intuitive, I didn't feel. I probably spent about 4 hours on it and sort of kind of gave up.
Okay. All right. That's a good feedback.
Okay.
Yep.
Just my experience.
Right.
And consider the source. I'm not a rocket scientist by any means.
I'm pulling it up here so you can see what it looks like. I think I'm going to pull it up here. Yeah, that's fine. Leave that there. All right. Yeah. So that's an option. It's got a funny name. That does that. But you can do different backgrounds and import your slides, and it keeps it all in there. So you don't have to have PowerPoint or Google Slides running. You import those. You can import a PDF or a PowerPoint right into it, and then all your slides are there, and you can pick what you want to show and put yourself on top of it and behind it and all of that. So that's. But it gets. I mean, just like now, I opened it up right now, and it's about to crash. So I need something that I can rely on, right? I don't want to be in the class and the thing's choking on me. Like right now, it's choking because I have a lot of other things going on that's keeping up, but that program is having trouble. Okay, so that one you could play with for free, like Will did, and see if you like it. I don't want to close this before it causes me other troubles. It's
Kevin, how many computers do you use when you're doing this? Are you just using one computer, or are you using one computer with maybe two partitions?
Good question.
I mean? Like,
yeah, good question. I'm using, let me close this, hold on. Yeah, I hadn't had it open in a few days. Good thing. I mean, it's starting to choke right there. Okay. I'm using one computer right now for everything you're seeing. Now I have two others hooked up that I can use. So I have my Mac that I use. Let me go to this other view and you can see what I'm doing here. Let's see if I turn this on. Let's go over to Razor right there. Okay, so let me grab this. I'll show you kind of what I've got set up here. All right, so I've got a really large monitor. I like one big one rather than a lot of little ones, but I have, these other ones next to it as well. But this is my Mac right here. And it's a MacBook Pro, and it's plugged in, acting like a desktop basically. So I've got my wireless mic, keyboard, and mouse. And over here I have a PC. This is a PC, And over on this one, I have, I use this monitor for a couple things, but I have another Mac plugged into that monitor. And then those are all tied together through this device right here, which allows me to pick different backgrounds, and I can pick different scenes from there and push it. This is more than you guys ever want, but I'm just telling you what I can do. This is a fantastic device. Stream Deck is a fantastic device that allows me to switch scenes real easy. So like right now we're on this camera. I can switch to this camera with my logo. I can switch to this view without a logo. I can go to the current app that we're looking at. I can go full desktop really just by the click of a button, but I'm not having to go in to do a whole lot on the computer. I can click to, this is you going back and using, this is showing what's on the PC right now. That's what's on the PC. I can, without them being connected directly, I'm using a switcher to see that. That's that. And then go back to my slides and do it. So this little Stream Deck device really lets me control this, because on Google on Zoom, to be able to switch to different things to share is really a pain in the neck. I mean, it's a lot of clicking and searching and finding. It's discouraging. That's why a lot of people just put their slides up and just kind of just go. They don't really switch it up much. But just by the switch of a button, I can come back to myself right here, which I'm not even touching my keyboard. I'm using that little Stream Deck. So, but I've been doing this with just one computer with what I'm showing you. So what tools do I need for that, right? Yeah, because if you're doing video, you need to have a computer that's going to push all this stuff, especially. I've shared my iPad, I can share my iPhone. That used to be a problem with Zoom too. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it doesn't. When you try to throw up your phone, like I can come here to my phone and show that right now. I've kind of built this screen so you can see my phone, and we can, do that. So it's reliable. This works really well. So what program am I using to do this becomes the next question, right? And this program is called Ecamm Live. And Ecamm Live, unfortunately, only works on a Mac right now. It only works on a Mac. So if you have a Mac, you're in good shape for that. The works on both platforms, but Ecamm Live works on just the Mac right now. Now, what does that do? Let me see if I can show you. What are we on? Got a few more minutes here. I love this program. This thing's been rock solid, and I was using it before I used and then I got into because it was so easy, and then I was throwing too much in it and I couldn't keep up. So I went back to Ecamm and realized how great it is. Let me clean up my desktop here so you don't have to look at everything I'm showing. All right, gets too big here. All right, I want to show you how this works. Okay, so let's go now to current app. It's not showing that, is it? I don't have that turned on. Let's go desktop. Okay. All right, Joe had to leave. Okay, this is the desktop, and there's two windows you're looking at. The right side is Zoom. Let me just make that smaller so it's not confusing. All right, you can see this. Is it too small?
Yes.
Is it too small? It's pretty small,
Yes.
right? All right, it's hard to show this. Let me see. I can't get it to get any bigger. Let's see. It's not going to, oh, okay. Here we go. It's coming in a little bit, right? All right, let me put myself.
I'm a little confused. What am I looking at, Kevin?
This is my desktop, and I'm showing Ecamm Live.
Okay.
And it basically, because it's looking at itself, it looks like that. That's what's tough. You basically, let me go back to myself because that's not really clear for you to see. What it does is it allows you to create scenes, and you can jump from scene to scene if you want to in there. And you can put graphics on top of it, and you can switch things around. What I have done for each of my classes is I've created different scenes for it. So if I go to this one, this was the class I did earlier today. And, you know, I have my logo up here. I create a background, my video, my name, the class slides in here. I have this for each class. I've got a little scrolling message at the bottom about things that are coming up, classes that are coming up. But I've also got a scene for just me on this camera, a scene with me with the logo, scene with my phone. This is the whole desktop again. I've created a scene for just the whole desktop. This one shows whatever's on this computer over here, which is the PC. I can show the PC from there. So that's what this does. It allows me to do all these things, and then I'm able to switch from different scene to different scene using that little Stream Deck that I have. So that makes this real easy to do for me, and I don't have to get real caught up in all the settings of Zoom, which I get lost in, which is a pain.
I think
right,
you're
let's talk-
saying that. Can I just clarify my understanding of what you just explained?
Yes.
I think you're saying that by using the Stream Deck, then you can, I use the word project or display any image from any of your devices, whether it's your MacBook Pro, your iPad, or your phone. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, any source I have coming into this computer, Ecamm Live will allow me to kind of pick that as a scene, and I can build whatever I want that scene to be. It has its own unique name. And then I could just, click on the name of that scene in the software on my desktop. And that's easy enough. You don't need the Stream Deck. What the Stream Deck does is it becomes kind of a hotkey button, right? It's like it's a keypad for you to not have to go grab your mouse and find a little button to push, which it's distracting because you're like chasing your mouse around your screen trying to find stuff. And instead, you just click the button and it's there. It's an amazing little device. I mean, you can use it for anything. I mean, streamers used it a lot at first, and now people use it for all kinds of productivity things. You can open an app with it. You can adjust volume. You can do all kinds of things with a Stream Deck, but it really makes it interesting. I've even got like sounds in here that I can play, that I put on the, okay, even music.
Probably be a DJ as well. You could probably run some
DJ.
kind of
or even fun things like the Jeopardy background thing, or stop those, and then but so you can do all kinds of things with it. But it helps not having to go look for things. You've got them on your little buttons here, and you can push them along.
Yeah. And how did you, well, I'm trying to set up I just got a 27-inch big monitor, and I have a MacBook Air. And I found that I'm also often reading or writing on one device and then maybe interacting with another device.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, it's really hard to do this online stuff with one monitor or a small monitor, because you need to have one open for Zoom. You need to see that. You want to see the people you're talking to, and then you've got all your content you're trying to manage and show as well. So definitely, yeah, it's it's experimenting, right? It's experimenting and doing it, but if you get comfortable with it and you can figure it out and it doesn't distract you from your presenting, then that's pretty effective. It's pretty helpful to use.
Like this morning, I was on a video conference and I was going to close my laptop, my MacBook Air, because I was looking at the person on the big monitor, but I realized they could no longer see me now because the camera's on my MacBook Air.
All right.
So because my MacBook Air is kind of in the way of the screen. I know I have to reconfigure what makes sense. And Yeah, but then I still need the keyboard from the MacBook, so I think I maybe need to get a wireless Bluetooth.
Yeah, get a wireless, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't even have my MacBook open. I keep that closed. It's just hooked up to kind of a port, and I've got everything run out of that. When I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras right now, right here that I have that I can use, and they're plugged into different things. But yeah, not even using the computer camera. These are using the other cameras.
How good of a camera should it be? A webcam? Because it looks like I might have to do that. Otherwise, I can't close my
Yeah.
MacBook.
Right. No, I mean, invest in a good one if you're going to be on. I mean, what you're looking at right now is a digital SLR. It's a Canon that I've hooked up to the computer through a USB port. This other one, this Razer one's pretty nice. That is, you can get a Razer pretty good too. Let me see if I go back to. Where am I here? Here we go. This Razer one, this guy here. I've got him kind of, if you can't see, let me go back to the Canon. It's got a white ring on it, but I've got it on a little stand, but it's just a little, it does a really good job. The quality of that's pretty good. Just a USB mic, this USB camera will work there, which is fine. The only other, this is free, OBS Studio. OBS Studio is free and it's used a lot for creating scenes as well. The learning curve would be the highest on that. I mean, that's what it looks like this right here. This is showing, this program right here is OBS. This is showing it on the PC, and these are scenes that are down here. So when I click on a scene, it changes. And I added an effect to switch to different scenes. Like there's a camera on there. These are 5 different scenes I have in here. There's another scene, another camera. But you can build scenes and set up things in here, and then you click these buttons. And you could use the Stream Deck to program those scene clickings as well, to click to those scenes. But those are the 4 tools there with Stream Deck and a good camera. The A10 Mini Pro, that's another level where you have HDMI inputs. It'll take up to 4 different inputs, and you can switch kind of professionally those scenes from one to the other. Ecamm does enough for the online for me on that. I use A10. I use this A10 Mini switcher to be able to hook my other 2 computers into this computer, so I can show things that way. But it looks like another source for the Ecamm Live program. It just looks like another camera. So the output from the switcher shows up in the Ecamm Live as another camera, and I just pick that source, which allows me to show the other computers. All right, I gave you a lot. Hopefully this was helpful. Some things to think about. Big things I'd say, connect with the audience. Think about telling a story. Don't try to say too much. Break your information down into bite-sized pieces, and it's better to give them good substance rather than a whole bunch of little pieces of niblets that don't have much meaning. People trying to make some big impact by some big things.